Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're on a path to finishing the NDAA this week. It's been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
Okay, Mitch? Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Go back.
Go ahead, John.
I'll take it back. Leave it. Let's go back to you.
Go ahead, John.
IRA. And, of course, if you look at the ultimate impact of the IRA and what's happening with the economy in the country today, prices continue to rise above the Fed's 2% inflation rate and way above the historical average. So the American people continue to deal with the economic impacts of high inflation generated by the IRA. And also you've got now new studies out. The Congressional Budget Office, the Joint Committee on Taxation, have both come out with studies that suggest that provisions in the NRA, or IRA, I should say, that deal with the Green New Deal are going to be hundreds of billions of dollars more than what was projected to cost. And so this continues to be a reason why the American people are experiencing the economic impacts of high inflation and higher interest rates, so much so that if you look at the impact on the average American, it's resulting in a 6% loss in the value of their assets, or in other words, about $34,000 per person in this country. That's the cumulative effect that higher inflation coupled with higher interest rates as a result of all the passage of this massive government spending bill the Democrats put through. And we found out this week that billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars of the IRA went to foreign companies. And so the American people have good reason to ask about Bidenomics and what is the real impact of Bidenomics. On the other hand, what Republicans have been working on this week is the Defense Authorization Bill, which is a critical priority for this country. National security has to be job one for the American people. And we have worked in a constructive way, to get the bill to the floor, to get amendments considered, made in order, voted on. We've had 16 voted on already, in addition to the 500 provisions that were included in the base bill, 250 amendments adopted at markup, and 51 amendments adopted in a substitute when it came to the floor. That's the kind of thing that we ought to be focused on in this country, which really speaks to the essential needs of the American people, rather than passing these Green New Deal fantasies that cost way more than they're projected to cost and contribute to the higher inflation, the higher interest rates that are leading to reduced asset values for the American people.
Well, Joe Biden is making life worse for American families. When you ask people, is your life better or worse under the Biden policies, only 1 in 5 people say that it's actually made life better. More than 2.5 times as many people said the Biden policies have made their life worse. So the Democrats are completely out of touch with the American people. Clearly, every weekend at home, I continue to hear about the high prices, and Joe Biden is the president of high prices. And you think with such a bad report card, the president would let up a little, but he didn't. This past week, he accelerated his attacks on affordable American energy. Look, prices are up 16% since he's taken over. People need some relief, but Joe Biden is so desperate to win the support of the environmental extremists that he'll do whatever they want. And that's why he's come out with new attacks on oil and gas, which are going to raise the cost at the pump, raise the cost in the grocery store, and to heat or cool your home. And these attacks are so bad that they're going to force a number of oil and gas workers to lose their job, and that could be tens of thousands. And for my home state of Wyoming, we are America's energy breadbasket. It's going to be especially devastating. You know, I often wonder if these elitists from the coast have any clue and an understanding of where their energy comes from and where their food comes from. My former colleague Mike Enzi used to always talk about a book called The Hidden America. It was from coal miners to cowboys, the unseen Americans who really make this country work. And Joe Biden could learn a lot from reading the book and from talking to the coal miners and the cowboys all across this country. Because it is these heroes, these hard-working heroes, who are the ones that are most being hurt by Joe Biden and the Democrats who are out of touch with America.
Thanks, John. The Small Business Administration is running a drive-through for fraudsters using COVID-19 assistance programs. And I'll give you a couple examples. More than $3 million was given to a convicted fraudster to pay for guns, bling, and luxury vehicles. Another example, a felon received $400,000 to pay for a car, a boat, a vacation, and tickets to sporting events. The SBA has handed out more than $200 billion, billion with a B, folks, in suspected fraudulent pandemic recovery grants and loans to 4.5 million scammers. The Restaurant Revitalization, if we can all say it together, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund dished out dollars to thousands of fraudsters while leaving nearly 2,000 struggling restaurants in Iowa with their handout. Biden is looking the other direction on allowing billions of dollars that fraudsters were allowed to rip off taxpayers to go uncollected. I'm requiring the SBA to collect all of the COVID cash owed our taxpayers and extending and expanding the jurisdiction of the Special Inspector General to find more fraud. Folks, $200 billion has gone out to fraudsters. We need to do something about this. Bring that money back in so that our taxpayers don't have to foot the bill.
Well, in 2 weeks, it will be the one-year anniversary of the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act. And there's going to be celebrations on the other side of the aisle, but for the life of me, I don't know what they're celebrating. As John Thune mentioned, and John Barrasso mentioned, the price of goods and services is way inflated. The inflation numbers are still way up, double what they are traditionally. People are paying more and getting less everywhere. And yet, this Inflation Reduction Act, which I always put Inflation Reduction Act in parentheses because it doesn't do that. It's just a hoodwink title. And it is a payoff to a lot of green energy. But I think the point that John Thune made is extremely important. 60% of the tax credits that are available, or the tax advantages that are available through this so-called Inflation Reduction Act, are going to companies that are not American companies. They're overseas. So we're growing the workforce in other countries. We are not $8 billion of those subsidies that have gone out have gone to companies that have some kind of China affiliation. $8 billion to those companies. So this Inflation Reduction Act is nothing to celebrate. And in my state, we are not celebrating because we see how it disadvantages our homegrown energy, how it disadvantages our homegrown workers.
Not long after Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, I was having a conversation with a prime minister of a European country. They had a balanced energy portfolio in their country, but he was lamenting the choices that some other European leaders had made in shutting down baseload power and the mess that Europe was in because of dependence on Vladimir Putin's natural gas and lacking a balanced energy portfolio. And he said to me, a vision without a solid action plan is a hallucination. Then we went on to talk about the fact the world is going to need 50% more energy in the next 25 years than it currently needs today. So we're going to need more energy choices, and it shouldn't be a choice between either renewables or conventional sources. We truly need both. We need to expand our portfolio of choices, not to allow the Biden administration to have this disastrous and very dangerous vision of stopping and replacing all conventional sources of energy. Last week, Made in American Energy took yet another hit from this administration. The Department of Interior proposed a new rule that would increase the cost of energy production in our country, estimated at about $2 billion between now and 2031. As with any industry, these costs will get passed on to the consumer, and Americans are seeing that at the gas pump with higher gas prices as we speak. Once again, this administration has shown us where their loyalty lies. It's with radical environmentalists instead of with Montanans and with American energy producers. What's worse is that every single one of my Democrat colleagues in the U.S. Senate paved the way for this egregious rule. Remember, before the Democrats passed their hyperinflation bomb a year ago, I worked to strip language that would increase the cost of energy production. They wanted to increase the cost. We tried to strip that language out. Only one Democrat was needed to vote with us and with the rest of my colleagues to stop that. Unfortunately, every single Senate Democrat gave Biden the green light to continue on this anti-energy warpath. Instead of working to support more American-made energy, Biden and the Democrats are tearing it down virtually at every turn, and we see it across the board. We must reverse this course before it's too late and get back to incentivizing and unleashing more made-in-America energy.
Could you address what happened here at the start of the press conference, and was it related to your injury from earlier this year where you suffered a concussion? Is that
No, I'm fine.
you're fine, you're fully able to do your job?
Yeah.
Mr. Lear, can I just get your reaction to what appears to be Hunter Biden's plea deal falling apart? What are your thoughts?
Well, there are a lot of people in the House who are better lawyers than I am, and it's a bit confusing now. I'm not sure what happened this morning, but to the extent that it looks like the administration is treating Democrats more favorably than Republicans, I can understand why people in the House are upset about it. Yep.
Do you see any merit in an impeachment inquiry into President Biden?
Well, you know, I said 2 years ago when we had not one but two impeachments that once we go down this path, it incentivizes the other side to do the same thing. Impeachment ought to be rare rather than common. And so I'm not surprised that, having been treated the way they were, House Republicans last Congress begin to open up the possibility of doing it again. And I think this is not good for the country to have repeated impeachment problems.
The state of Alabama just moved forward with a congressional map to essentially define what the Supreme Court had told them to do. Are you comfortable with that, or should they comply with the Supreme Court order?
Well, it'll be up to the Alabama legislature to decide how to handle it in the wake of the Supreme Court decision. I have no idea how this ultimately ends, but I gather from reading the articles, the Alabama legislature thinks that they are compliant with the Supreme Court decision. We'll see. There'll probably be litigation again.
Senator Collins says that the Appropriations Committee will get all its bills done, but she's uncertain as to what Schumer will do in September with regards to allocating floor time. What would you like to see happen in September in terms of the appropriations bills?
Well, we've come a lot further this Congress than we did the last. Tomorrow, I think the Appropriations Committee will report out at least 4 more bills. Surely the Majority Leader will go to the appropriation bills in September, it give us a chance to at least have a mini bus with a House pass appropriation bill coming over. Typically, you substitute for that. We're ready to go, and Senator Murray, I think, has a commitment from the majority leader that we're going to try to process these appropriation bills, and we need to do that in September.
Leader McConnell, do you have anybody in mind to replace you when you're no longer the conference leader?